Hey, I'm Caleb Giddings for Taurus USA, and today we're going to talk about mounting a Picatinny rail to your Taurus Expedition bolt-action rifle. Now, one of the conscientious choices we made when we designed this rifle was to use a Remington 700 style short action. That means that there are millions and millions of mount options out there for this rifle, and that allows you, the shooter, to pick the one that you like the best. Now, if you like a pick rail, we've got a great option for that, and we're gonna go ahead and demonstrate how to mount a Picatinny rail to this rifle. Once I've taken everything out of the package, I can go ahead and get started with mounting the rail to the gun. One of the nice things about this Real Avid vise is I've got a little tray down here that I could put my screws in to keep them from rolling off the table. So I'm just gonna place my rail on top of the Taurus Expedition, and I'm gonna visually inspect to make sure that my screw holes are lined up both in the gun and with the rail. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a torque wrench. Why a torque wrench? Because tightening this by hand and by guess and by God doesn't actually get the screws to the proper tension. You could over tighten them or you could under tighten them. Both of those are bad, especially when you're dealing with recoil on a 308. So now we can go ahead and start tightening these screws down. And I'm just gonna drop these in to make sure they're lined up with the screw holes first, and then just get each one started. Once I have each of the 4 screws started, there's a specific pattern that I'm gonna go through tightening them. I'm gonna start with the front screw and tighten that down until I start getting pretty good resistance on my torque wrench. Then I'm gonna go to the furthest back screw and tighten that down until I start getting significant resistance on my wrench. Then I'm gonna go to the front second screw, same thing. And then, last but not least, I will tighten the screw that is just in front of the rearmost screw. Now, once those are all tight to the point that I'm getting resistance on my torque wrench, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna apply the full torque to this. When the wrench clicks, I know I've got my 30 inch-pounds. That's the process of mounting a rail. Each one of these screws has now been torqued to 30 inch-pounds, and from here, I can go ahead and add whatever sort of Picatinny style mount I want to this. So if I wanted to use something like these 30mm scope rings and add a scope that fits in these, I could. If I wanted to use a different sort of pick mount, I could use that as well. I could even use something like a QD mount for a different type of scope that's designed for this rail. One note on mounting things in a Picatinny rail is before I tighten the actual mounts down on here, I wanna make sure that it's pushed forward in the rail so that when the gun recoils, it's not going to change my zero. But that's a very simple process, and that is how you mount a Picatinny rail to the Taurus Expedition rifle.